All right, today we're jumping into one of the most intense showdowns in all of ancient literature. We're talking about a story of escalating power, a battle of wills, and some seriously wild supernatural signs. So, let's get right into our breakdown of Exodus chapter 7.
Everything, and I mean everything, kicks off with this one simple but world-shattering command. This isn't a polite request. It's an ultimatum, delivered to the most powerful man on the planet. And it's the spark that lights the fuse for everything to come.
So here's the wild part. Before Moses and Aaron even walk into the palace, the text actually lays out the whole game plan. And what's so fascinating is that this isn't presented as a list of possibilities, it's a straight-up prediction of exactly how this is all going to go down.
Just look at this sequence. It starts with a line that, has been debated for centuries. I will harden Pharaoh's heart. This immediately sets up this incredible tension. Is Pharaoh acting on his own free will, or is his resistance part of a divine script? The text basically says this hardening is the trigger for what comes next, these mighty judgments, all leading to one final goal, a display of power so overwhelming that everyone in Egypt will know exactly who is in charge. This is the roadmap for the entire conflict.
So who are the guys tapped for this, let's be honest, this impossible mission? Who's going to walk up to Pharaoh and deliver this message? Well, the text gives us some really specific, almost surprisingly human details.
Get this, Moses, the guy who has to be the voice of God in this whole affair, was 80 years old. So we're not talking about some young, fiery rebel here. This is a man who has already lived a very long and complicated life.
And his brother Aaron, the one who's going to be his prophet, his spokesman, was even older at 83. I think these details are in there to ground these larger-than-life figures in reality. They were real men, with a lifetime of experience, not just characters in a story.
Okay, so now we get to the first showdown. And this isn't some theological debate in a quiet room. No, this is a full-on supernatural throwdown right in the middle of Pharaoh's court.
And just like the plan predicted, Pharaoh is not impressed by words. He pretty much scoffs at them and says, "Oh yeah? Prove it." He wants a sign, a miracle, to show that they have any real authority.
So Aaron answers the call. He throws his staff on the floor, and right there, in front of Pharaoh and all his officials, it turns into a snake. This is their opening move, a very clear display of the power they're bringing to the table.
But you gotta remember, Pharaoh leads a civilization that is steeped in magic. He isn't shocked by this. He just calls in his own guys, his wise men, his sorcerers, to do the same thing.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. Look at this head-to-head comparison. The Egyptian magicians pull it off. Their staffs become snakes too. And for a second, it probably looked like a draw. But then, Aaron's snake eats their snakes. The message could not be any clearer. Whatever power you have, there's a much, much greater power at play here. But even after seeing that, after watching his own magic get literally devoured, Pharaoh just digs in his heels, he won't listen, and the text says it perfectly fulfills that initial prediction. This moment right here sets the pattern for everything that follows.
So, if the snake showdown was a warning shot, this next part is where things escalate dramatically. We're moving from a little spectacle inside the palace to a devastating national crisis that's going to affect every single person in Egypt.
The next confrontation happens at the most important, most sacred place in the entire country, the Nile River. For the Egyptians, the Nile wasn't just a river. It was their source of life, their economy, their religion. Attacking the Nile wasn't just an environmental disaster, it was an attack on their entire way of life.
And look at how total this plague was. When Aaron struck the Nile, it wasn't just the river that turned to blood. It was all the water, in the streams, the canals, the ponds, even the water people had stored in jars at home. The entire ecosystem just collapses. The fish die, and the river starts to stink, completely undrinkable.
Now this part is just baffling. Pharaoh's magicians step up again, but instead of trying to fix the problem, they prove they can do it too. They essentially make the crisis worse. You have to wonder, why? Were they just trying to save face?
So the fallout from this was just pure, real-world desperation. You can picture it, right? An entire nation of people frantically digging holes in the dirt next to this polluted, bloody river, just hoping to find a little bit of clean water to drink.
And this wasn't just a 24-hour thing. The text makes a point of telling us that this national state of emergency, this desperate search for water, went on for 7 full
days.
So by the time we reach the end of this chapter, a really clear and honestly pretty disturbing pattern has locked into place. It's this repeating cycle of command, defiance, and terrible consequence.
You can see the three-step dance pretty clearly here. First, you get the divine command, and it's backed up by a powerful sign. Second, the Egyptians managed to imitate the sign, but they totally miss the point or can't overcome the original source of power. And third, no matter what happens, no matter how bad things get, Pharaoh refuses to give in.
And the chapter closes the loop, bringing us right back to that perplexing prophecy from the very beginning: Pharaoh's heart is hard. The battle of the staffs didn't move him, and a nationwide water crisis didn't deter him. His refusal is absolute, just as it was foretold.
And this all leaves us with this huge, chilling question that just hangs in the air. The first plague is over. A serious line has been crossed. With Pharaoh's resolve completely unbroken, how much worse can this possibly get?